Humans, this is an adoption campaign, but it's not for me or Mr. Buttons or Frank over there. It's for you, humans. This is a call to humans to adopt our movement, to adopt our cause.
This isn't just about saving one of us.
It's about saving all of us.
Thousands of lives, every single day.
It's about support for every one of us four, and sometimes not four-legged best friends, waiting to meet a best friend of our own. With Best Friends Animal Society leading the charge.
Shelter by shelter, city by city.
We can save thousands of pets each day. Join us. Together we can save them all.
Thank you for joining us for Pet Connect. I'm Tara Douglas. Today we're going to talk about something that's been getting a lot of attention in our community, and that's the packs of dogs that live along Highway 280 at some of our busiest shopping centers. I'm sure you've all seen the post, you've seen the opinions, you have your own opinions, you've seen the dogs, but most importantly, you've seen a lot of people that care deeply about these dogs. So we're here today to not argue, but to discuss what is happening out there, discuss what works, and also to try to figure out the best possible outcome for these dogs, because at the end of the day, we all want to see these dogs safe. So I've asked the Sylacauga Animal Shelter Manager, Stephanie Engel, and also our Animal Control Officer, Brandon Garens, to join me today on Pet Connect. So thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
So for people who don't understand the ins and outs of what you have to do each day, let's talk about what it takes to deal with not only these dogs, but the dogs in the community. So let's understand what happens from the shelter standpoint, from animal control also.
Do you want to start?
Yes. So for my main position as far as the animal control officer, so we get the call as far as either stray dogs are out, or we got vicious dogs in a community like that. I'll go out there and I'll either try to my best to actually put a leash on them, or at last resort actually put a catch pole on them. Okay. If not, I'll try to trap them if they're very skittish. I'll put some type of food in there or anything, as far as anything that's delicious that I can trap them with.
Okay.
And then at that point, I'll trap them and we'll take them to intake, as far as we'll take them back to the shelter, and those guys will actually give them some type of medication and look for any type of ticks or anything like that that may be on them. And they take them to intake and try to find a place for them to get adopted out or fostered out.
Okay. And then from the shelter itself standpoint, what is it like to deal with these dogs that are in the packs and community dogs too?
So it's very challenging, and I think there's a lot of people that just don't understand the process that we go through, and basically a lot of times, the heartache and just the blood, sweat, and tears literally that we expend trying to help these animals. So our concern from a shelter standpoint is that we have these animals that are roaming. They are being fed constantly. We have had complaints.
Okay.
There was a complaint that there were 10 dogs in front of one establishment. When our ACO officer went out, he actually counted for sure 15, maybe 20 when they started moving. So that means that there's dumping going on as well. When you feed these animals, you prolong their agony. So what we see from a shelter standpoint, the animals come in, Mr. Garens will bring them into us. If they're vicious, we will actually unload them into an ACO kennel in their trap, and we will let them come out on their own. Then we try to figure out how we have to catch pole them sometimes. We have to try to give them medication to get rid of the ticks. So many are covered in ticks. Brandon just caught 2 in back of Harold's. And they're literally, their face and ears are just completely ridden with ticks. I mean, it was unreal. So we have to catch pole them just to medicate them sometimes. It's a struggle. Then we have to, be safe on how we feed and water them, how we clean the kennels. We do that probably twice a day. And then it's the process of trying to socialize them. If they have mange, then they have to be bathed. And if you've got a vicious animal, that's quite a challenge. We have to hold the dogs, you know, for at least 7 days. If it's a vicious bite case, we're looking at 10 days.
Okay.
If they've bitten somebody, they of course go to the vet. But that's sort of what we go through. It's quite an ordeal. It takes a lot of time for us, and as everybody knows, there's just 4 of us. We're understaffed, so it's a lot, and we want to help the animals, but you know, we've been begging the public, you know, not to feed them.
So the unintentional consequence of
Yeah.
feeding, because these people they're feeding them, they think they're helping, they want the
Right.
best for the
Right.
dogs, but feeding does not equal caring for the dog necessarily.
That's true.
So what are some of the unintentional consequences of putting the food out? Because they're well-intentioned people. So
Right.
So what are some of those consequences of feeding the dogs that are in the pack? So let's get into that now. Let's get into specifically what's happening along 280.
So the consequences of that, as far as that, they're not getting treated. They're not, like, I'm not able to catch them with the traps because, hey, I went out into Publix one day and the lady was like, hey, these dogs are out there eating dirt. And I was like, okay, let me go out there and see what they're eating. So people are dumping food. It rained.
Oh,
So now it looks like a pound of like dirt on the ground.
Okay.
So the dogs are eating like right off the grass, which is not great. So the dogs are getting to these packs, and they won't go into the, like I said, they won't go into the trap because you know, they're getting great dog food from people out there. So I know people think that they're helping as far as actually throwing dog food out there for them, but they're not. They need to actually come to the actual shelter so we can actually get them treated and get them adopted or fostered out. So.
And at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants. Like I said
Yes.
at the beginning, is for these dogs to be safe and to do what's best to care for these dogs and to figure out what can happen so that they can be safe and have a good life and do the best you can. So what do people need to do then? So, you know, they see these dogs, and I've seen posts where they're saying, well, what do you want us to do? Let the dogs starve? Absolutely, you do not want these dogs to starve.
Yeah.
That's not the intention of the shelter by any means. But what if they see the dogs, what would you recommend to the public? With both of you having interacted with some of the dogs that you were able to get, what would you recommend if people are like, well, then what do we do? I mean, do they need to call the shelter if they see the packs there? I mean, I know they're there a lot. Do they need to?
So just recently, we've been patrolling areas where people dump food. Okay. Typical areas are in the green space between Starbucks and the other retail outlets.
Okay.
Across the street at Home Depot is a big one. It's always behind Zaxby's, right on top of a storm drain cover. It's always down a steep embankment. There's a big cement pad down by the storm drains or aquifer down there.
Okay.
They always dump several piles down there. So what we've been doing is actually going and picking up that food or dumping the food into the storm drains. Because what we're trying to do is make sure that the dogs have some appetite so they will go into the trap.
Okay.
We've had some success recently. Brandon caught 2 behind Harold's. He caught 3 or 4 puppies that were in another storm drain. And what people don't realize is that when these dogs roam like this, you know, they do come to us when we are able to catch them, which is the goal, right? Because we have property owners and managers at stores that are concerned about, you know, legal liabilities and the pack mentality that can develop. And we don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want any of our shoppers or, you know, people that patronize these stores to feel intimidated by animals. So what we're trying to do is catch these animals and get them to the shelter so we can get them the help they need, right?
Absolutely.
So when we're pulling puppies, or when Brandon's pulling puppies out of the storm drains, I mean, you have to realize that almost always the litter has parvo. They've been in grass, they've been in water, so they're suffering with that virus. The other dogs come in, like he just said, full of ticks. So there's tick-borne diseases that we're concerned about. We are scared to death that, you know, at some point we're going to get a dog that's, you know, maybe rabid.
Okay.
Our other concern is that these dogs will develop a pack mentality as people dump more dogs, because there's free dog food, there's shelter, and there's water. So people have a tendency to dump unwanted animals there. We're worried about a pack mentality
Because they can get
developing.
territorial.
Absolutely, they can get territorial. So we don't want that to happen. You know, we want to, you know, control the situation right now. We're actually begging people not to dump food in these locations. Help us get the dogs so that we can treat them and move them forward.
But at the same time, when you say help you get the dogs, you don't mean you
Yeah,
want them
no.
to try to get the dogs themselves.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
want to take
Because
a
that's
risk.
not safe.
Yeah, we're saying help us by stop feeding the animals so that we can trap them. Like I said, when we've been picking up the food, that's actually helped because the animals have a little more appetite and they're more willing to go into the traps. So
And then
we've
you can get
actually
them
had
to safety.
success. Right, right.
And I know that, you know, I read the post too, and I
Yeah.
see how people are like, well, these dogs that have never done anything, they haven't hurt anyone. You know, why can't the shelter get them? Because they'll come up to me. Now, explain that, especially you, Brandon. Those dogs will. They know that these people are putting out food. They are not socialized, so they're not bonded to people.
Yeah.
But they're still not, even if they come up to you because you're putting out food, you can't really get your hands on them
Yeah.
with you safely, personally, with just your hands on them, putting them somewhere. Like
Yeah.
a regular person, not you who's trained to do it, but just a regular citizen thinking, well, I can put my hands on them and put them in the back of my car.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah, so whenever you think of it, I always think of this as far as like you cut on a light, and if you got roaches, they scatter, right?
Yeah.
And now, so if I go out there with my truck, they're automatically fleeing because hey, I know what that white truck is. That's the animal control guy. So it's a point where like I'm the only animal control officer in Sylacauga. I have other calls I have to go on. If I would love to just stay out there and try to bait them all day long. But if you're like the public and you're out there going out there feeding them every day, those dogs are more likely going to come up to you because hey, you made that relationship, you built that rapport with them. So that's the reason why.
But coming up to you doesn't equal, oh, I can just put this dog in my
Right.
car like I
No.
can my dog at
Well,
home. Because
so-
that's not okay.
So
that's
now
not
that
safe.
you mentioned that, we did get a call from a woman who said, hey, there are 2 dogs lying in the parking lot in front of Beals, and I got my hands on them. I said, well, do you think you can put them in your car and bring them to the shelter? And she said, no, I'm scared to death they'll bite me. Smart lady. So I
Yes.
said, I'll be right there. I said, I'm coming in my car because they know the truck, so I'm going to come in my car. So I came in my car, and sure enough, the dogs are lying down. She's actually doing a belly rub. And I started to pick them up, and they're scared and they're growling a little bit, but I managed to get them in my car. I was thrilled. I get them to the shelter, get them secured into an ACO kennel. I went to get a vaccine for them so we could bring them into the building because I knew that we could definitely move these guys forward. Just from the moment I put the kennel, the fork latch down on the kennel gate, went in to get the vaccine and came back, they had climbed the chain link fence and escaped. So we've got that issue too. It's a real challenge. These dogs are very athletic, very resourceful.
And I think the dog that you actually called that day, I think I caught him the other day.
Oh, I hope so.
From at Coosa Pines, those young ladies that called from Coosa Pines saying, hey, we got this dog laying down and wasn't getting up at all. So, yeah, and I actually got that dog because when I brought him back in, Jay was like, dang, I think that's a dog that Stephanie caught the other day. And I'm sitting like, okay, well, we got to find a better spot to put this dog at this time because, those young ladies were like when I left, they were bawling. They were like, because they have feelings for everyone
It's a
have
very
feelings for these
emotional
dogs.
thing with these dogs at home at all of those shopping areas on 280. People do get very emotional about it. And again, we got well-intentioned people that are trying hard to do something for them, but maybe it's not the right approach, and they got unintentional things happening, which makes it hard for you to get
so we
them.
just all need to be on the same page, and hopefully, getting the word out will help people understand from our point of view what we go through every day and how important it is to try to contain these dogs and get them rehomed safely so they're not wandering in the streets and not, we had a report, I guess yesterday, that one of the dogs, was deceased in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So that's an issue too with them
And
running
I got
into
a call
traffic.
from someone that one of them got hit by a car on last night on 280. So, this is not a good life for these dogs.
No.
And if there's help from the community so that you guys can get those dogs, then you can triage. You can treat them because they're not healthy. You know, from a rescue standpoint, you know, we see it, but people that just see them out there that develop that bond and want to feed them, they don't see how unhealthy these dogs are and what a tough life they have.
Well, the other thing we've talked about too at the shelter is like the people that are feeding the dogs, we'd like you to come on board. Like, we want you to come down to the shelter. We want you to volunteer some hours. We want you to put hands on and help us socialize these dogs. And so you could kind of get an understanding what we go through and the many, many steps it takes to move these animals through the system. But that would be a much more, you know, beneficial for the animals, for us, for everybody involved. So hopefully we can all get on the same page and do that.
Absolutely. So of course you want people to protect themselves and stay away from the dogs. Number one, I realize those dogs have not necessarily done anything as a pack, but there's always that possibility. It's not necessarily safe to approach them. But then also, come to the shelter, volunteer, see what has to happen so you better understand what needs to go on with these dogs. And then the shelter has needs. What are some of your, I mean, if people are thinking, well, you know, I still want to try to help these dogs, but maybe I'm not coming to the shelter. What are some of your needs right now as far as supplies and things like that?
So I would encourage the people who are buying lots of dog food to bring it to the shelter, because we are catching some of those dogs and we will need food at the shelter to feed them. Because of the number of puppies we have, and I understand we are now into the puppy and kitten season, so we're getting whole litters. Because newspapers are very rare now. We're having to buy paper, but puppy pads are in hot demand always. Dry dog food and canned adult food is needed. And what else, Brand? Anything on your side?
Just usually just like hot dogs or anything like that to
For
just
the
bait
traps.
the dogs
Okay.
with traps and stuff like that. I've done pretty much all my research as far as looking at all types of things as far as bacon grease and.
Talk about the trap you're building.
Okay. So yeah, actually, what was that, Bargain Hunt, right? We had Bargain Hunt that closed, so they had the little gold, little metal things that actually was given away for like $10 or something, and I had them at the house, and I was like, okay, what can I do with these? So I reached out to Greater Birmingham and asked them. I was like, hey, I'm having troubles actually catching a lot of these dogs.
And that's Greater Birmingham Humane Society.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think her name was Ginger. I think she's in charge of the actual ACOs over there, and she told me that they have a volunteer that actually comes in and builds like a Missy trap. So it's more of a caged-in area. With like I actually found the little design off of YouTube, right? So it's like a caged-in pig trap, to catch pigs. And so it's like they walk through the little area, and it's like a rope that hangs down. And that you have like a piece of meat or like a piece of smoked meat. They jump up there and they grab it, and it slams the door shut. So in that possibility, hopefully we can catch multiple dogs instead of one dog.
And they wouldn't know what that is right now. They
No.
know what your other traps are.
Yeah,
so
they
maybe
know
this
what,
is another
you
way
know.
to safely get them and get them to the shelter.
Because usually the ones that I caught behind Harold's were two, and it was unlikely as far as to catch two dogs in one trap. So they had to be like right behind each other when the door slammed. But usually I can catch puppies like that. But those adult dogs, it's like,
it's hard.
Don't
They're
worry about
smart.
it.
They
They're
get very
smart.
trap savvy.
Yeah. Trap savvy is right.
Yeah, look at it. If you try to cover it with a tarp, that's not going to work. So I have to think of new ways to actually try to figure out how to catch these dogs because
They're well fed. That's a big problem.
and they're well fed too.
So basically, it's a big encouragement to the community that so many people that care so much about these dogs come to the shelter and volunteer, help socialize them, so that they can, because there are some, as you've heard today, the Coosa Pines dog allowed them to pet him, but at the same time they tried to bring him in a safe spot in the building, and he wouldn't go in. He didn't want to get in a car. So, you may not be able to get them yourselves, and you shouldn't. Let animal control handle that. But come to the shelter and help after the fact. Help socialize them. Help us find a rescue that will take them, or a local person to adopt them, so that we can get these dogs where they can be safely cared for. And again, at the end of the day, that's what we all want, is these dogs to be safe, and the community to be safe as well. So we can work on that. Now, really quick, they mentioned puppies. That's another unintended problem that can happen after letting these dogs stay out there, is that we've got a lot of puppies that run around, and I've been in a ditch before grabbing puppies from a couple of years ago from these dogs. So, let's help Brandon out and let's get these dogs and let's keep more puppies because it is puppy season and the shelter will be full and we don't need more puppies coming from.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just the inbreeding, it's a big
Absolutely.
problem. So
Now, before we go, we mentioned coming to the shelter. We do have a pet of the week that we want to show. This is Nolan. And Nolan, is he about 2 years old?
He
is that
is.
correct? And this is a picture of him at a doggy day out this week, and he did great on that doggy day out. I see him in the play yard a lot at the shelter,
Yeah,
and
he is.
he's kenneled with a couple of other dogs, so he gets along with other dogs. I love Nolan. I've fallen in love with him, so we would love to find him a home. So anything else you can add about Nolan? He's a sweet dog. He's
yeah, his litter mates have been adopted. He needs a good home, so we're looking for somebody with acreage or a fenced-in yard that can bond with him and spend time with them.
Absolutely. So if you come out to the shelter, you can meet Nolan and all of the other dogs that are available for adoption. And we thank you so much for coming on the show. We
You're welcome.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having
And
us.
come out and walk dogs with us this Saturday 11 to 1 and every Saturday 11 to 1. And if you have any questions, please contact the shelter. I'm sure y'all will be happy to answer any questions about what needs to be done with
We'll do our
the
best.
280 dogs. So thank you for joining us. We'll have more Daybreak after these messages.